Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my 2020 Pan Those Palettes finale. It has been a weird year in general and a weird year for me with makeup, but regardless, I am at the end of this challenge. So before I go any further, I'm going to take you back to month 11 and show you what both of my palettes looked like. And now for the final time, here is what my Lorac Pro 1 palette looks like after 12 months of usage. And again, here is what my Cargo Summer in the City palette looks like after 12 months of usage. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna talk about changes between month 11 and 12 and then do like a summary of how the year went with these two palettes. So first off, with my Lorac Pro 1, I did finish off the shade that was sitting in light pink, which was one of the creams from my big black palette. I'm not gonna go ahead and take that out because I didn't have any change from last month to this month. I just finished off what was in here and then started pulling out from my 2021 palette. I started to use the cream shade in there. I will say that initially, when I was finishing up month 11, I thought for month 12, I would just really stick in the wheelhouse of like a gold brown vibe. That didn't end up proving true. I did widen the gold shade a little bit, but I was finding that I wanted to use pewter. So you'll notice here that the pewter circle got a lot bigger and I started to thin out a bit more this side of it. I did also play in sable still and widened it a little bit, but the progress is much less noticeable because once I sort of got sick of the gold type of eye look, I started to really go for the eye look that you see on my eyes today, which is a combination of pewter in my crease and then a shade from my Cargo Summer in the City palette. So not like a ton of super noticeable progress. I'm not very surprised by that because I knew with what I had left in these shades that I wasn't going to be able to pan any of them completely in the next month, but I was happy that I made consistent progress in these three. Garnet, I decided a few months ago I just really wasn't a fan of, which sort of melds more into this back half of the palette where I had popped all of these out before the year even started because I knew I wouldn't like any of those and didn't want to pan any of them. As far as my Cargo Summer in the City palette, we have some unexpected changes here. So first off, Bike Ride. Like I said, I initially spent a lot of time hanging out in Bike Ride as my go-to lid color, and I widened this shade quite a bit. I definitely think if I had just stayed with this the whole month, there is a shot that I would have wiped out half of the shade completely. I really don't think I would have gotten all the way through, but you're gonna notice that we have some more pan popping out here in Pool Party. And I have pan here in Breeze. It's kind of hard to see because of the lighting, but I've got pan right in the center. Basically, what I did was a couple of times I used Pool Party in my crease and used Breeze on my lid. I will definitely say that I like Pool Party as a color, but it's finicky. It's a finicky shade to work with. I wouldn't say that I would have enjoyed panning it completely because it just wasn't the greatest quality shade to work with. Like, it was a difficult purple. I liked the look in the end, but it took effort, and I don't always want to put effort in. But where I really like loved Breeze was with pewter. That's what I have on my eyes right now. I have Breeze on my lid and I have pewter in my crease, and I just love like the cool icy purple vibes of that. I kind of laid into that deeper into December and was not at all displeased. I will say one thing I tried out, I was inspired after watching a swatch video where someone had mixed a setting spray with one of their powder shades to like liquefy it as a mixing medium. For some reason, I never thought that you could do that. So I just was one day feeling inspired that I wanted to get more of a impact on my lid. So I ended up spraying, like really dousing one of my brushes in a setting spray and then mashing it into Breeze. And it basically just created like a silvery purple molten lava on my lid, and I loved it. I will say, and this might be news to no one, but if you haven't done this before, I will say that I think it destroys a shade, because I noticed that it really started to change the dynamics of what was happening in here, change the consistency, the texture of those shadows. So I think that, you know, if I tried to do that from start to finish with every single shade in here, it would have made it challenging. I definitely think you're better off like maybe trying to scrape a bit of the shade out, mixing it somewhere else, and then putting it on your eye versus basically mixing it in there like I did. But I felt like I had nothing to lose because I wanted to get some usage out of this and try out some different looks. So I was happy with those discoveries. Okay, now that we've talked about the change from month 11 to 12, let's just go ahead and summarize what I accomplished this year. So when I started out, I had these 8 shades in the palette to work with. I had already panned nude, white, and cream just naturally, organically on my own. And at the start of the project, I had chosen to pop out champagne, deep purple, slate, black, and espresso. Those were shades I had no interest in trying to pan. Over the course of this particular year, I panned completely taupe, light pink, and mauve, which I think is very impressive because all of these were mattes, and mattes are very difficult for me to pan, especially Lorac mattes, because they're very hard pressed and you don't need a ton of color to get a nice impact on your lids. And I also panned light bronze. Collectively, you will see here that I do have pretty substantial pan on gold and pewter, and I also have a little bit of pan in sable. So out of the 8 shades, there's only one that I don't have substantial progress on, which was garnet, and I'm cool with that because garnet wasn't really a color that I learned I was really into and didn't have an interest in panning. When it comes to where do I go from here, I have decided that I would like to keep sable, pewter, and gold because I don't have a ton of colors like these in my eyeshadow collection, and I like these colors enough that I want to finish getting usage out of them. I'm not going to carry this into next year's Pan That palette. I'm just going to depot them and stick them into my singleton black palette that I have all of my one-off shades in. And I think that I will try to, as I work through other shades in my 2021 palette, if I have a need for one of these, I'll come in and take them and try to use them that way. But I'm really happy with this palette. I will say overall, I feel very similar to how I felt with my Lorac Mega Pro 1 palette, that this is just an exceptional palette. It has a great variety of shades in here. I think it's a really easy to use palette. And if you're somebody who is new to the makeup world, or you're looking to get a palette for somebody who's new to the makeup world, you can't go wrong with this. Like, this is just a lovely palette. It makes me love Lorac even more as a brand because I just think this is an exceptional palette. And even though there are 5 shades in here that I don't like, that does not mean the palette is any less valuable to me. I'm just somebody who's not a super big fan of like dark, smoky shadows. That doesn't really jive with my makeup style, but still a great palette. Very, very happy I chose to work on this in the 2020 year. As for my Cargo Summer in the City palette, a lot less progress in here. I did only pan completely 2 shades And I have pan showing on 4, but I left a good bit of this palette on the floor, really. I didn't use Heat Wave, Gelato, Sizzle, Sidewalk much at all. I just preferred the types of tones in my Lorac palette over these. And I got rid of Sunset and Chill pretty early on because I just didn't feel like they were good quality shadows. I am pretty pleased with the progress in here because what I will say with these shadows is it was easy for me to get center pan, but to actually get the rest of the shadow was really time consuming and difficult to do. I really feel like the quality of this is not as great as the Lorac Pro palette, and I definitely think that after working on this for a year, I sort of have lost interest in Cargo Cosmetics. I just don't feel like their eyeshadow quality stands up to the quality that I prefer. And it wasn't until I started mixing this at the very tail end of this project with a mixing medium did I feel like the lid colors were really giving me that pop and impact that I really wanted. So I am considering in this palette taking out Breeze. I don't yet know if I want to. I'm still going to think about it a little bit more. But if I were to keep one from here, it would be Breeze. I like Pool Party, but it's fussy, and I just don't feel like fussing around with a crease color that will take me a long time to use up. So overall, a very different type of year. I definitely think I would have had more progress in both of these had I not taken like a 2-month collective hiatus from wearing eyeshadow. I would say over the course of this year, there were about 2 months worth of days where I didn't put any makeup on my face, and that really like hurt the progress of these. But it was still a pretty good year, and I'm still pretty happy with the way this played out. I so appreciate you guys who tune in for these updates and give me suggestions on how to use different eyeshadow combinations. It's really helpful. I am someone who's very goal-oriented, so it is very satisfying to see usage in here, and I am really happy to have worked through pretty substantially 2 palettes in my collection, which means I have 2 less palettes to work on, and new things are in my horizons for 2021. I hope that you guys are all having a great day. I appreciate you being here, and I'll talk to you in my next video real soon.